Listen Up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
Jim Potts back on the air. How you doing today? Hey, listen, I know that the message always seems like I'm sending messages out there for employers, and I do send messages occasionally out to employees as well. So I'm actually devoting this segment to employees and sending messages to employees and trying to assist the employees. And I do that from time to time because I don't want you to look at me as just, somebody just, working with employees. I do try to keep employers out of trouble. But by doing that, I'm also trying to create a healthy work environment for you. So I want to make that very perfectly clear also. And I always appreciate getting emails and questions from employees. Last segment, I addressed a couple of emails that I had gotten from some employees regarding working overtime, etc. And it may seem like I lean toward the employer, but sometimes employees also have to understand from the employer's perspective, from an outside person that's trying to let them know that it's not that your employer necessarily is always being hardcore. It's just that you got to understand the realities of running a business sometimes from a whole different perspective. Now, today I want to focus on trying to assist you, employees that are out there, with the mistakes that employees make during their performance reviews. So, first of all, let me just start out by saying, because we'll get these inquiries sometimes from students that'll say, well, Dr. Potts, are we, my employer, they don't even give out performance reviews. There's no legal requirement for, in fact, employers to do annual performance reviews. So let's just make that clear. There is no legal requirement to do that. And if an employer has a policy in place that says that they're going to do reviews, whether it's after the first 90 days of employment or whether it's after 6 months or after a year, etc., and they don't do it, there's not really any kind of legal recourse where you get to rush into court and say, they didn't give me my annual review. So let's just make that clear. No legal requirement to do reviews. All right. Now, what happens when, in fact, your employer does conduct the reviews? I want to give you some pointers. Do not make these types of mistakes during the interview process. Now, hopefully is what your employer will do, by the way, and what we encourage our clients to do is to give the employees a blank review, so that they can actually critique themselves before they get ready to meet with their manager or supervisor. And then they get to bring that with them or give it to the manager, a few days before, so the manager can look at it and they can address whatever issues that you may have. So let's just talk about this. One of the downside employees that I don't agree with sometimes with your managers or supervisors is that they hold all their criticism and praises for the annual performance review. And I know that's going to make you nervous. So hopefully you don't have that kind of manager. We call that gunny sacking. Gunny sacking is when a manager or supervisor holds everything. Now here's time for the review, and all of a sudden they dump all this on you, and they hadn't said anything to you throughout the whole process. So hopefully you won't have that kind of manager. Now, the other issue that I want you to understand is that a number of companies tie their annual increase programs to performance reviews. And so that's going to create a little anxiety in you as well. But it's what we try to get managers, again, and supervisors not to do, is to tie it into money. Now, what I mean by that is that, when times are really slow financially, employer can always afford to give a raise. So they may give you a performance review, but there's no money associated with it at that time. And that to me is okay. So let's say they do the performance review, and I know what you're going to say. Well, is there any money associated with this? There may not be. But understand why there may not be. Things may be slow. But they're still doing the review so that when things financially pick up, the review is already done, and they can talk to you possibly about an increase at that time. So now let's talk specifically about the reviews. Now, you have a role in this process, and I want you to understand that as well. Your role, and that can make the difference between being, oh, let's just say, career progression and career stagnant. Your career gets stagnant. You don't want that. This is your best opportunity to sit down with your manager with his or her full attention to you and your career. So that's your opportunity. There's other times when you may look at it and say, "Oh, they're too busy to talk to me." This is the time that they can do it. And by the way, let me just talk to the managers and supervisors for a second. When you get ready to have your performance review with your employees, put those cell phones on vibrate or turn them off altogether. Put the land phone on do not disturb, so that you're devoting all of your time to that individual when you are talking to them. Now let me flip back to the employees with the biggest mistakes now. Now, one of the mistakes the employees make, they don't ask the right questions. You should come prepared with a list of questions that you want to talk to your manager about or ask your manager. And do me a favor. In those lists of questions, don't have one of the questions be, "Can I get a promotion?" All right? Look, instead, you should be asking specific questions like, what am I lacking? What is your perception of me? Or let's say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Those are the type of questions you want to ask. Don't look at them and say, am I going to get a promotion? Am I going to get a raise? All right? That's always going to be a negative. Don't do that. But have your questions so that as if you're there to inquire about you, your strengths, your weaknesses. Now, other questions could be, how do you feel I am collaborating with my coworkers? Do you feel that I'm adding value? What do you feel has been something I excelled in? What is something you think that maybe I didn't do so well in, that I struggled with, or I failed? Pull some information out of them. That'll give you also an idea about how they're viewing you. That's the kind of information you want. Not right off the bat, can I get a promotion? Not right off the bat that, just to let you know, I'm the one doing all the work out there and nobody else is doing it. And when you're not around, man, this place is chaos. Don't go into all of that. Be professional. Let's go to the second one. When you get ready to talk to them, have your goals. Whatever the goals may be, you want those things prepared correctly. You need to share how your future goals will help to achieve the company's goals. Recognize what the goals should be. So that's something you should be looking at as you're going along, whether it's a sales goal, whether it's development of the department, whether it's not we're going to be more efficient with shipping these items out, more efficient with the customer satisfaction. That's one thing I'll give dealerships credit for. They have what they call the CSI scores, Customer Service Index, where they get feedback from the customers about individual employees, the person that serviced them. And they look at this chart and the whole 9 yards. I think that's great. So make sure that when you're doing your job and when you go to your supervisor, you want to make sure that you have what you feel should be some goals that need to be accomplished and how you think that you might be able to achieve those goals, especially if throughout the year you are having a problem with these goals being met. So be a little bit more affirmative as opposed to being negative when you go in there. You want to show the enthusiasm that you are a team player. Ask them for the feedback. Now, look, some of this might already be in the review, and that's okay also. I'm only saying that as you're doing this or going through the process with the supervisor, keep these things in mind. All right? Now, another mistake that they make, you don't give managers feedback. You should be open and honest during the review. If the supervisor's not getting something that could help, if you're not getting something that can help you grow, maybe you need more one-on-one time with your manager, different resources, you should share that. If you don't like how your manager communicates with them, talk about it. Say that, sometimes I get a little frustrated because I don't feel that you're communicating with me. I send you emails, I don't hear back from you. Those things would help me. But now look, be careful. I'm not telling you to attack them. Be diplomatic in how it is. Ask them about, hey, you know what? Is it possible that we could work on when we're working on goals? Let's say you're in sales. Is it possible we can get together once a month and talk about my sales goals and how we're doing with that, with how I'm doing with my sales goals, as opposed to once a year or twice a year when we do these reviews. That would really be helpful so that I have a measuring stick as I'm going along, and I don't have to wait until after 1 year to find out that you may have been unhappy with me about something. That's okay. Now, not role playing. Before you get ready to go into an interview, it's the same way like you get ready to interview for a job. Do you actually do some role playing, maybe with your significant other, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, so that you'll feel a little bit more comfortable when you go in there? Now, what I mean by that, if you plan to bring up a topic that is hard for you to address, then try to do a role playing with that kind of conversation beforehand with somebody, so that when you go in there, you're a little bit more relaxed, because we already know that you're going to be a little nervous as it is. You're meeting with your supervisor, and you're going to be nervous. We get it. So if there's something you really want to talk about, go through some role playing before you get in there. Don't do it with a coworker, because they'll be bringing that and telling the supervisor about it. Word will get back to them. So do it like at home with a friend, or etc. The other thing is, do follow up. After the review, you should send your manager an email recapping the conversation and any steps that you discussed with them. Also, if your manager suggests that you start doing something, whether it's getting to know other employees or reading a monthly industry report, whatever it may be, execute it. Do it. Make sure that you're doing it. All right? Follow up with the manager for clarification on things. That's okay. So if there was something in that meeting that you feel you needed some clarification on, even if you thought about it after the fact, do a follow-up with them. All right? Look, those are just some little key things. Maybe some of those things you're doing, not doing. Take whatever part of that works for you. Whatever part doesn't work for you, kick out. Hey, that Jim Potts guy is out of his mind. I'm not doing this way. Hey, that's okay also. For some people, things work. Some people, it doesn't work. All right, with that last comment, it's time to close out the segment. But let me remind you that you can hear us on Facebook at Listen Up, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Friday between the hours of 9:45 and 10:45. And you can call us at 855-4J-POTS or at 855-457-6887. Or you can email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. You can also find me on Twitter, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. So go to those sites, get me on board so that when I'm sending you some things out, you'll be privy to some of that information as well. Okay, I'm Jim Potts. I will continue to fight the fight. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Until next time, make it a great week.